Hello everyone, I'm Amir and you're watching the Saddest Amir channel. This is my daily life in Krasnodar, a city in the south of Russia. In this video we're going on a long relaxing walk. We'll start by looking at the beautiful spring blossom in my neighborhood. Then head to the Kuban River, the main river of Krasnodar. After that we'll visit some calm and peaceful lakes, walk through the city and our journey in Krasnodar Park, where I'll show you some of its most beautiful spots. But first, breakfast. So, let's go! This is my favorite dish with my favorite mushrooms. For breakfast today, I have toast with different kinds of fried mushrooms. It smells amazing and tastes even better. Now we're walking through our neighborhood. Look at this blooming tree, so quiet, so beautiful. These beautiful blossoms are from the Canadian redbud, one of the most charming trees in spring. Spring always feels like a new change, even if nothing around us has really changed. The same streets, the same houses, the same life. And yet something feels different. Maybe it's the light, soft and warmer, or the air, fresh and full of quiet energy. Or maybe it's something inside us. After a long winter we slowly wake up, just like the trees, just like the earth. We begin to notice small things again. The sound of birds, the movement of leaves, the colors returning to the world, and somehow it makes us believe that we can start again too, not in a big dramatic way, but quietly, step by step. Spring doesn't ask for perfection. It just asks us to begin, to try again, to move forward, even a little. And maybe that's why it feels so special. Because every year, without asking, it reminds us nothing is truly lost. Everything can begin again. Look at this field. The grass is so fresh and green, full of new life. Sometimes the simplest things carry the deepest meaning. Just look at this grass. So fresh, so green, so alive. It grows quietly, without rushing, without trying to prove anything. Day by day, it reaches for the light, even if no one is watching. And maybe we don't need to rush either. Maybe it's enough to grow at our own pace, to become a little better with each day. Without noise, without pressure. Just moving forward, like this grass. Can you see the small white flowers hidden among the grass? Look how bright and vibrant the green leaves of the Babylonian willow are. The willow always feels different, somehow softer than everything around it. Its branches don't stand straight. They bend with the wind, and maybe that's not weakness, maybe it's wisdom, because life is never still. It moves, it changes, it pushes us in different directions. And the question is not how strong we resist, but how gently we can adapt. Like the willow, we don't need to break. We can bend, we can flow, and still remain ourselves. Maybe strength is not instead in charm, but instead alive through change, quietly, naturally. I really love how cherry trees bloom. What about you? Krasnodar feels like a very unusual city to me. Even in the large residential districts, you can find so many fruit trees. In summer, you can just walk around and pick cherries, apricots, plums, and many other fruits. I'm from St. Petersburg, and there something like this in the city center would be almost unthinkable. Most of the trees there are just decorative, only leaves, no fruit. So to me, Krasnodar feels like one big fruit garden, even in the newest parts of the city. Cherry blossoms never last long, and maybe that's why they feel so special. For just a short moment, everything is covered in soft white and pink. The air feels lighter, the world feels quieter, and you realize this beauty is temporary. It doesn't try to stay, it doesn't fight time. It simply exists, fully, gently, and then it lets go. Maybe that's what makes it so beautiful. Not how long it lasts, but how deeply it can be felt. We often wait for the right moment, something bigger, something more. But maybe this is it. A quiet morning, soft petals in the wind. A feeling you can't hold on to, but don't want to lose. And maybe we don't need to hold it. Maybe it's enough just to notice, just to be here while it lasts. This is bird cherry in bloom. I really love this tree. I have many warm childhood memories connected with it. Now we're heading to the Kuban River by bus. The next scene will be by the river. This is the Kuban River, the main river of Krasnodar. The river never stops, not for a second. It keeps moving forward, no matter what stands in its way. And in many ways, time feels the same. We can try to hold on to a moment, to slow it down, to stay where we feel safe. But time keeps flowing, quietly, steadily, just like this river. Sometimes it feels calm and gentle, like nothing is really changing, and sometimes it moves faster, pulling everything with it. Days, memories, people, everything passes, and maybe that's not something to fear. Because without movement, there would be no life. The river doesn't resist its path. It doesn't try to go back. It simply follows its way and becomes something greater with every step forward. Maybe we're not that different. Maybe we don't need to control everything or understand even turn ahead. Maybe it's enough just to keep moving, to try the direction, even when we don't fully see it. Because just like the river, we are always going somewhere, even now. If you watch the river long enough, everything else fades away. The noise, the thoughts, the rush. There's only this moment. And maybe that's what we're really looking for. Not something more, but something simpler. Now we're leaving this wonderful river and heading home, not by bus, but on foot. This unfinished building looks really strange. This is a monument of an Indian boy riding an elephant located in Friendship Square. It was originally a concrete fountain opened in 1957. Over time it began to deteriorate and there were plans to remove it. But the residents loved it so much that they didn't want to lose it. So in the end, a metal replica was created. preserving the memory of the original. And here we have a monument to a pigeon. Just kidding. He's just sitting there like a statue. I really love these spiral-shaped cypress trees. There's something so unusual about them. What about you? Look at this bicycle decorated with yellow flowers. It feels so bright, so warm, like a little piece of sunshine. Now we've arrived at one of the lakes, Lovo-Pokrovskaya Lake, calm and quiet. In a world that is always moving, always rushing, moments like this feel rare, quiet, still, almost unnoticed. Nothing special seems to be happening, and yet something changes inside. The noise fades away, thoughts slow down, and for a moment you're not trying to be somewhere else, not thinking about the past, not worried about the future, just here, just now. Maybe that's the real value of these moments. They don't ask for attention, they don't try to impress, but they give us something we often forget, a sense of balance, a quiet kind of clarity, a feeling that everything is enough. And maybe we don't need more noise, more speed, more distractions. Maybe we just need more moments like this. Simple, silent, real. Look, can you see that black duck on the lake? This isn't actually a duck, it's a coot. And now we're at the Pokrovskaya Lake. It's just nearby, but the atmosphere feels different. More people, more movement, more city life. The world around us is always changing. Sometimes it feels calm and quiet, like a still lake. And sometimes it becomes loud, fast, almost overwhelming. People, movement, noise. It never really stops. And we often try to control it, to make everything slower, clearer, more predictable. But maybe the world was never meant to be controlled. Maybe the real question is different. Not what is happening around us, but what is happening inside. Because even in the middle of noise, we can find a quiet place within ourselves. A place that doesn't depend on the city, or the people, or the moment. And maybe that's what balance really means. Not a perfect world outside, but a steady feeling inside. Something calm, something grounded, something real. And when we find it, the world doesn't feel so overwhelming anymore. Now we're leaving these calm, beautiful lakes and heading to Krasnodar Park. Let me show you part of the way there, through a quite wonderful village. The variety of prawns here creates such a mysterious feeling, like you've stepped into a Ghibli world. What do you think? There's something about the road, something quiet but powerful. As we move forward, step by step, something inside us begins to change. The noise slowly fades. Thoughts become lighter. And without even noticing, we start to feel different. Maybe it's because the road gives us time to think, or maybe not to think at all. Just to walk, to look around, to breathe. In places like this, far from the rush, everything feels more real. There, the sounds, the simple details, and maybe the road doesn't just lead us somewhere else. Maybe it gently brings us back to ourselves, to a quieter version of who we are, one that we often forget in everyday life, and all it takes is just to keep walking. These flowers are so delicate, soft, quiet, and almost fragile. Now we've reached our destination, Krasnodar Park. We've started to explore the Park of Clouds, a part of Krasnodar Park. This long, winding alley with cypress trees feels like the south to me. What about you? Look at these amazing views from the hills of the Park of Clouds. They open up so beautifully. The Park of Clouds got its name because of its landscape design. All the greenery trees and shrubs there have soft, rounded and curved shapes resembling recent clouds. The designers intentionally avoided sharp angles, favoring smooth, flowing lines instead. The Park of Clouds is located on elevated ground, which further strengthens the association with clouds. This fountain is called reflection of clouds. It's not working at the moment. I also filmed this fountain on another day when it was working and added that footage to this video. This fountain is the highest point of Krasnodar Park. Look, can you see the rainbow in the fountain? Now we're moving further. This art object is called emotion. Can you see the lanterns on the white blossom trees? When you spend time in a place like this, surrounded by green, by trees, by life, something inside you slowly changes. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but quietly, almost without noticing. Your thoughts become softer. The world that felt complicated starts to feel simpler, and you begin to realize how much noise we carry inside us without even noticing it. In everyday life, we rush. We think about our plans, problems, future, past, always somewhere else. But here, in a place like this, everything slows down. The wind in the leaves, the light between the branches, the quiet movement of nature. It reminds us that life doesn't need to be rushed. Trees don't hurry to grow. Grass doesn't compete with anything. Flowers don't question their timing. They simply exist, fully, naturally. And maybe we forgot that we can do the same. We don't always have to be productive or fast or constantly moving. Sometimes it's enough just to be present, to feel the air, to notice the colors, to walk without a destination in mind. Because in these moments, something very important happens. We return to ourselves. Not the version of us that is always busy, but the quieter one. The one that simply observes, breathes, and exists. And maybe that is what nature gives us. Not answers, but space. Space to feel, to slow down, and to remember that being here is already enough. Now we are leaving the Park of Clouds and heading further into the main part of the park. Look, can you see these tourists with suitcases? They look quite charming in this park. It reminds me of traveling. There are many tourists in Krasnodar Park, even those who come here just for a day. These seem to be visitors from another country. I think they're just passing through Krasnodar to see this amazing park. Maybe later this evening they'll continue their journey to Moscow or St. Petersburg. That's probably why they're walking around with their suitcases. They don't have a place to leave their luggage. These beautiful flowering trees are apple trees. When you walk through a place like this, surrounded by people, it's easy to forget that everyone you see is living a life just as real as yours. Every person here has their own story, their own thoughts, their own memories, their own worries, and their own dreams. Someone is just enjoying the moment, walking, smiling, breathing in the air. Someone is thinking about the future, making plans, searching for something more, and someone might be carrying something heavy inside, something you would never notice, just by looking at them. We pass by each other every day, without knowing anything about the lives around us. And yet, for a brief moment, our paths cross, in the park, on the street, in a quiet place like this. Maybe that's what makes this moment special. Not just the place, but the invisible connections between people. Stories moving side by side. Each one different, each one meaningful. And maybe sometimes it's enough just to notice it, to look around and understand that this world is much bigger than our own thoughts, and every person we see is a whole world of their own. This place is called the Musical Garden. The sound is real, just listen. I really love the city with white dandelions. So much is happening around us every single moment. People walking, talking, thinking about their own lives. Small details, quiet movements, moments that come and go without leaving a trace. And most of the time, we don't even notice them. We're busy with our thoughts, our plans, our worries, always somewhere else. But if you stop for a moment and just look around, the world feels completely different. You begin to see things you've passed by so many times before. A simple smile, a quiet conversation, the way light falls through the trees. Nothing extraordinary, and yet somehow it feels meaningful. Maybe life isn't only in big events. Maybe it's hidden in the small, quiet moments we usually overlook. And maybe all it takes is just to notice. These trees look a bit like fir trees, but their leaves are more like palm leaves. They're called araucaria. Araucaria is a tree that evolution seems to have forgotten. Scientists call araucaria a living fossil because over 240 million years it has barely changed. It has been decorating our planet since the time of the supercontinent Pangea. Dinosaurs saw it just as we see it today. Just imagine that. And like a true Chilean, araucaria is in no rush. After its first 10 years of life, it grows only about 1 millimeter per year. In average, mature tree can be 300 years old or more. The strongest and most ancient ones can easily be over 500 years old. In Kuban National Park, there is even a mother araucaria that is around 1,800 years old. Once, forest of araucaria stretched from the mountains all the way to the ocean, but that was a long time ago. This location you saw earlier was the French Garden, the place we just visited. Look, can you see the wisteria blossoms on the wall? Some things in nature don't grow straight, and maybe that's the point. Look at wisteria. It doesn't rush upward in a clear line. It flows, it bends, it finds its own direction, and still it reaches the light. There's something quietly powerful about that. Not everything has to be direct to be meaningful. Not every path has to be simple to lead somewhere beautiful. Sometimes life is more like this plant, moving sideways, wrapping around seeds, changing shape along the way. And maybe we are like that too. We don't always grow in a straight line. We change directions. We pause. We start again. But that doesn't mean we're lost. It just means we're growing in our own way, quietly, naturally, like this wisteria. The clouds look especially beautiful today. This is a French garden, seen from above from an observation deck. I really love these geometric patterns. French gardens are built on a very clear idea, order, symmetry and harmony. One of the main principles is the use of modular elements of the patterns based on simple geometric shapes. These shapes repeat in different combinations, forming the structure of paths, loads, and flower beds. Symmetry is another key feature. Everything is carefully balanced, from the layout of the walkways to the arrangement of flower beds, creating a sense of calm and control. The ground itself is usually flat and even, which allows the design to feel open, structured, and easy to reach from above. And finally, there is often a large basket, a closed hidden green space. A kind of secret corner inside the garden where geometry turns into patterns and order meets silence. In a way, a French garden is not just about nature. It's about humans shaping nature into something intentional, structured, and quietly beautiful. As I walk along these paths, heading toward the exit, I start to notice how every journey has its own rhythm. At the beginning, everything feels new. Every detail catches your attention. Every sound feels important. But as you move forward, something changes. The mind becomes quieter. The steps become more natural. As the walk around you starts to feel less like something you are absorbing, and more like something you are simply part of. Parks are like that. They don't rush you, they don't demand anything. They just exist, and let you exist with them. And maybe that's why leaving them always feels a little strange. Not because something ends, but because something gently shifts from stillness back into movement, from quiet back into sound. And yet, even when you leave, something stays with you. A slower way of thinking, a calmer way of seeing. And maybe that's the real value of places like this. They don't just give you a moment of peace. They remind you that peace can travel with you even beyond the park. These beautiful flowers are rhododendrons, so bright and full of life. These are also rhododendrons, just a different variety. And now we're leaving the park behind and going home. Look at this beautiful blossom. This chestnut tree is in full bloom. Every journey eventually comes to an end, even the quiet ones like this. We walk through places, we notice details, we collect small moments without even realizing it. And then, at some point, we begin to return home. But something interesting happens on the way back. The world feels a little different, softer, calmer, more familiar. It's as if everything we saw along the way quietly stays with us. The trees, the light, the water, the people, they don't just disappear. They become part of how we see things. And maybe that's what travel really is. Not just moving from one place to another, but changing a little inside with every step. So even when we go home, the journey doesn't really end. It continues, in memory, in feeling, in the way we notice the world after. And maybe that's enough. Okay, we're at home now. For dinner today, I have rice with tofu, mushrooms, red pepper, and onion. Oh, it's really delicious. For dessert, today I have a sour cream cake made from Mr. Coolidge. To make it, you cut the Coolidge and spread it with yogurt, sour cream, or mazzoni like we did. It's really delicious. I love it. And this is the end of our walk today. We started with a simple morning at home, walked through blooming streets, lakes, and parks, saw different places, different people, and slowly moved through the day together. Sometimes it feels like nothing special is happening, but when you look closer, every small moment becomes part of a bigger story. If you enjoyed this walk with me, you can support the channel by subscribing, leaving a like, and writing a comment. I'd really love to read your thoughts. Thank you for spending this time with me, and see you in the next video. Bye!